What's going on, guys? Chase on Two Wheels here at Mountain Motorsports in Roswell to do a first ride on this 2019 Husqvarna Vitpilen 701. Bro, look at this thing. I am so damn excited. Alrighty, guys, we are here for another used edition of First Rides. In front of us, we have a 2019 Husqvarna Vitpilen 701. You can see the info here. Just grab this off the showroom floor here at Mountain Motorsports in Roswell. This bike is probably in my top 5 favorites as far as looks go, so I'm coming into this thing really hyped, and I hope the engine and the motorcycle can live up to how cool this thing looks. It is a used model, so it is a little modified from stock, but we need to get into this thing. Alright, guys, that's what it looks like. That's what it sounds like. Now let's jump on this thing and see how she rides. Thank you guys so much for sitting through the ads. They massively help us produce the content here on the channel. So you guys supporting the companies that support us helps us create more content for you guys. We got a cyclical loop, just like this little dash. Alright, guys, 2019 Vitpilen 701. Let's get this thing going. Pioneering since 1903. Awesome. Alrighty, guys, so I'm 5'10", I got a 32-inch inseam. I can flat foot, but only just. It is a very close to not being able to flat foot situation here on the Vitpilen 701. We have an interesting little situation here. I am excited to get this thing started. Guys, before we get going, I do want to invite you over to our Discord server. It is full of motorcycle enthusiasts just like you. It costs no money, and you should totally check it out. Oh, you guys check it out while I head off on this thing. Alrighty, here on the 2019 Vitpilen 701. Let's go. So if you guys that don't know, Husqvarna, it's basically KTM. With a different look, but we won't get into that. With the Husqvarna, we have a Vitpilen and we have a Vitpilen. Got crazy IKEA-ish names, and the differences are mostly the Vitpilens have clip-ons. They're a little more sporty, and we'll talk about body position here in a minute. And then the Vitpilen with an S, those have handlebars, which is going to put you a little more upright. Interestingly, producer Trey, newest team member here at Chase on Two Wheels headquarters, he told me that Husqvarna's website currently does not have any Svat or Vitpilens on there, which is interesting. Now, this is a 2019 review. We're only talking about this motorcycle, but it's just interesting that they don't have those on there. At the same time that we're going through a lot of carryover with this Duke 790 and 890 stuff. I don't know. It's convenient that that's happening. So, it turns out I don't have any rear view mirrors, so this should be a very interesting first ride. It'll probably be chaotic and scary, but hey, that's not a first. Alright guys, first ride time. So, let's talk about body position here on the Vitpilen. It's kind of a tale of two stories. My lower half is super comfortable. My legs don't feel crunched up at all. I really like the way my lower half feels, and then my top half is leaned over a little more. It's one of those interesting situations where my bottom half does not meet my top half. We do have clip-ons on this motorcycle, but I wouldn't say I'm in a race position at all. If anything, my lower half feels like I'm on a naked bike. Like, you know, it kind of feels like my MT-10 down there. And then my upper half kind of feels just slightly forward. And as far as the seat goes, seat feels a little on the harder side. Not getting a lot of movement with that seat at all. I would definitely say we are on the harder side of seats. I do like that the seat is tapered in here at the crotch, so it helps me get my feet down a little better. Very nice transition from feet on pegs to feet on the ground. That's something I'm realizing more and more about motorcycles that I'm riding. The ones that are really good around town have a very good transition from my foot being on the peg to being on the ground. Sitting here in traffic, this thing weighs nothing. I think the actual curb weight wet is somewhere around I want to say 360, 380, which is on the lower end. Very much loving the weight in that lower position of, like my leg position as far as city riding. So, speaking of city riding, you might be asking yourself, Chase, does this bike have modes? I see a mode button up here. No, this bike does not have modes. That mode button just changes what that information is on the very top of that dash. We'll talk about the dash and stuff like that later in the video, but it does have traction control and it does have ABS. So we've got like an okay package on this motorcycle. So guys, riding around these little city streets, and man, that lightweight is so apparent on this motorcycle. I feel like it takes no energy to move this thing around the lane, change lanes, do whatever. And it's got a really good balance, even though my upper half is a little more sporty. You know, typically being sporty would give me a little less maneuverability, but I find no lack of low speed maneuvering here on city street, which I kind of love. With it being like a cafe racery looking bike, you know, this thing would be perfect for just scooting around the town, going to a coffee shop and stuff. I know those are the stereotypes of a cafe racer, but I mean, it fits it really well. You guys ever get at gas stops and you put your hands on the gas tank and typically you expect them to be up here? Mine is all the way down at my crotch. That seems so low. My goodness, you forget how the top line of this motorcycle is so low down. You forget about that until you try to put your hands down at a red light, and you're like, how far are they going to go down? Throttle response here on the 701 is a little interesting, at least here in town. I noticed that if I'm too high in the revs, I'm already out of the power band, and if I'm too low in the revs and I'm not in the right gear, this thing just chugs and jumps around a lot. Yeah, the power is very interesting on this thing. Like when it's in the power band, it feels punchy, but it feels like the power band is like 1,000 RPMs. For as good as this balance is on this bike and weight, it seems like it's lacking in the power department, which I don't feel it should. It's a 701. It's based on KTM 690 Duke, so, or the old 690 Duke. RIP, you know what I mean? Also here in town, the engine braking is next to nothing. It's almost like I let go of the clutch and the bike just continues to propel itself forward almost. That is a really strange feeling. Now, some of you guys might like that. You know, some of you guys, I know I've said in the videos, I tend to like engine braking to be a little stronger than what you guys in the audience typically like. Man, if you want the power out of this thing, you better be ready to accept it with all of the vibration that it comes with. Those things are paired together. This thing is a very shaky motorcycle. It has been a minute since I've ridden a KTM that's been this shaky. I know this is not a KTM, but you guys know what I mean. It's like, it might as well be. What RPM are we at right now? 4,500 is as high as you can go before it starts shaking again. So guys, coming up, we got the highway. And I don't know if you guys noticed this, but this bike has no windscreen. So I'm hoping that me being leaned in on my top half is going to help a little bit. This is also a single cylinder on the highway, so I kind of worry it's going to be I'm going to feel like a smoothie at the end of this. I'm just going to get shaken all about, especially based on how much this thing is shaking already. But how else are we going to do a shakedown? How else are we going to figure out what this thing's all about if we don't get on the highway? So that is what we shall do. And the 40 to 80 pull, if you guys are going to be able to see 40 on that dash. I know it's kind of hard to see here in the sun. Oh, I love light motorcycles with good balance, man. I can get this thing going like less than 1 mile per hour and balance it. All right, we're gonna just casually proceed at 40 miles an hour. All right, let's try 40 to 80. On your mark, get set, go. Okay, barely got to 80 before I ran into the BMW. Awesome, that was terrifying. So here's the thing. I was in a position on this motorcycle, I didn't want to shift down because my RPMs were pretty high, and I kept it where it was, but I lugged along, implying that I should have shifted down. I don't understand what this bike wants, I think is my problem, and I also love that car. Now, I'm going 6th gear, I'm going 87 miles an hour, and my hands are vibrating so much right now that they are going to be going numb momentarily. My feet are also vibrating incredibly, and I'm not even going that fast. Here, let's dip into the right lane real quick. Let's slow the speed down. Oh my God, the shaking is worse. All right, let's go just 72. The shaking is still happening, and I'm only going 70. I don't know where to be to make this thing not shake. Interestingly enough, the wind, though, no problem at all. I got 75 miles per hour worth of wind, and this slight leaned forward. I got no problem. The wind is holding me up. Stability on the highway. Let's go back and forth. Bike feels good. I have no problem with this thing on the highway. The main issue here is the power delivery is just kind of dead at this high in the RPMs, and I don't know if I could deal with this shaking long term. Yeah, for a 701, man, I need a little bit more power here on the highway. You got enough to pass and stuff. The power is just so far low in the RPMs, you're just out of the power band, and this bike seems just really lethargic here on the highway. Luckily, we're finishing the highway up, so let's get on over here and let's prep up for our big turn. Oh my God, the shaking, it needs to stop. All right, maybe it just wants to be ridden a little gruntier. Maybe it wants to be leaned over. Let's look at this front turn signal, just shaking about. My goodness gracious. All right, Vitpilen 701, let's lean her over. Yeah, we're wiggling about a bit, but I don't have any problems with the suspension leaning this thing over. We also have adjustable front suspension. Oh my good God. When this thing starts to lug around, it goes from like very tiny erratic vibrations to just big thumping shaking. That's hilarious. You start bogging this thing down and it's just like it's like I don't know what to do. It's like it's shaking a hammer around. No, it's shaking a sledgehammer around. All right, guys, so let's jump over to the camera car and see what those guys think of this awesome looking motorcycle that likes to shake a lot. Thanks to our buddies over at Cardo.
Pretty cool motorcycle for a clone. You know, at a glance, it's not easy to tell that it's pretty much a KTM Buick 690. It has a really cool design. I like the flat gas tank, the very angular look to everything. Not sure how well I would fit on that machine because of how high the seat is, but it is really cool.
701 Husqvarna coming in with a kind of cafe style retro look. Looks really sleek. I like the seat, and the seating position looks very interesting. You know, you're kind of in a sportier designed machine. So yeah, I think it's a cool looking bike overall.
All right, guys, in the camera car, thank you so much for your opinions, and even more so, thank you, Cardo, for supplying amazing Bluetooth units for us here in the shop, sponsoring this First Ride series. If you guys want a discount on Cardo units, there is a link in the description below. Alrighty, dudes. So, suspension-wise, loving that it is adjustable in the front and the rear, I believe, and feels pretty good leaned over, which makes me feel good because my top half wants to ride hard, right, because it's all leaned over and aggressive. My bottom half holds me back, though, but it's good to know the suspension feels good when you got this thing leaned over. As far as this power delivery, I do feel like it might be a little lackluster. To be fair, maybe I'm just riding this bike incorrect, but I just can't find a good place where the power feels like it wants to be ridden in, or the bike wants the power to be put down. I feel like I'm either lugging it too low and it's, you know, swinging a sledgehammer around. I've got about 500 to 1,000 RPMs where the bike feels like it's in tune and it's good. And then it starts vibrating too much and I'm not getting any power out of it. So I have to shift, and then I feel like I lose my power. So I'm kind of just confused on where this bike wants to be ridden. Yeah, this bike has the oddest power band. It's literally, it feels like it's between 4,000 and 6,000 RPMs. And after that, and only inside of that power band, it only feels good for like 500. What a strange motorcycle. Another strange thing about this thing is brakes-wise, it only has a single front disc. Now, we've got Brimbos on the front, which is great. And I haven't had an issue as far as braking goes. I'm like, why do we only have one disc? It feels like it should have more, especially for the price tag that this thing carried when it was made. This thing is $9,500 on the showroom floor. You know what I mean? Like, that's not chump change. Let's hammer on the brakes a little bit. Yeah, no complaints about the brakes. I just don't know why there's a single disc. Maybe they only put a single disc because it didn't really need any more. We'll just roll with that, I guess. So guys, talking about transmission real quick, I have not had a problem with getting into gears. I get a good satisfying click. Now, it did from the beginning. It fell into neutral from second, oddly, but that was the only time that's ever happened to me, so I don't know if that was rider error or something like that. KTMs typically do a good job, which means Husqvarna do a pretty good job of their transmissions. Although I was pretty sure that this bike was supposed to have an up and down quick shifter, and as you guys can see, it is not shifting upwards, but it does shift down automatic. I don't know what's up with that. I've never seen a bike with only a downshifter, but it is what it is. Okay, we're not going to shake that much. All right, guys, let's talk about the controls in the dash up here. When it comes to the pilot view, I don't really have a problem. I really like how minimal everything looks, but I got to be honest, for a bike that's $10,000, these switches look like they came off of like an R3 or like a CBR 300. I don't understand why they're not more premium if you're going to charge a premium price. Now, have I had a problem with any of them not working or feeling bad? No, the turn signal feels fine. Whenever it does that turn signal thing where it only gives you a middle click if you're disengaging. So I have no turn signal on here, so if I press it, I don't feel anything. But if I had a turn signal engaging and clicking, I would get a satisfying little... There's that. I don't necessarily have a problem with the switches, and if this bike was a $5,000 or a $6,000 bike, I probably wouldn't complain as much, but I am going to complain if the price point is what it is. Now, moving on with that same conversation is this dash. One thing that this bike does that I can't stand is it does the single blinker thing. So whether I'm blinking left or right, it just blinks one thing. I can't stand that. I hate it, and I would rather literally have nothing knowing. Also, this dash is... I know this is a 2019. It's a 3-year-old bike, but this bike, when it came out, was like $13,000 or $14,000, and that's the dash you get? That is absolutely unacceptable. That kind of plays into a lot on this motorcycle, where this bike is not a terrible motorcycle, but for the price that it is absolutely a terrible motorcycle. There is no reason a bike should cost this much and have control setups that look like that and have a dash that looks like that. There's no reason this should not have been a TFT in 2019. If Husqvarna puts out like a 901 of this and it doesn't have a TFT dash, I will roast the absolute hell out of that motorcycle. You have a bike that you're like, we can all just like pull the curtain back and be honest. This is a 690 Duke that Husqvarna put the Husqvarna look over, right? They put on this Neo Cafe dress onto a Duke 690. If you are going to do that and charge a lot, that's fine, but the bike has to be worth that. It has to have some of the creature comforts that a bike that is futuristic should have, and this bike does not. It is not a total package. I'm totally fine when bikes have not a lot of tech I'm totally fine with bikes have a lot of tech, but you gotta fit the vibe. And I feel like right now this bike is not fitting the vibe. But speaking of vibe, we do need to pull off up here, and we need to talk about the looks. I know you guys have been getting to watch it and look at it as we ride around with the camera car footage, but I'd like to look at this thing a little more because if I'm gonna be honest, I feel like it's the best it's got going for it. Somehow I always get the spot. Alrighty. Vitpilen 701. God, probably one of the most definitely one of the coolest looking bikes ever made. I love the lines, I love the flat top, I love everything about this bike except for the way it rides. God, I hate that. Such a cool looking unit. This is easily one of the best seats ever. It's a little hard, but you know what? I can get past that. I'm not that worried about it. And I believe this is not a cowl. This is a passenger seat, so you can still have a passenger. It's a shame that this bike does not ride even a fraction as good as it looks. It really does kill me, because if this bike rode really nice, if this bike rode mediocre, it would be such a win in my book. It would be hard to justify not getting one, but like, what do you, like, looks can only go so far. That's my big takeaway from what I'm seeing right here. So guys, I can't do it. Can't even keep looking at it. I'm gonna take some photos for Instagram. If you guys aren't following us over on Instagram, you should. We're at C2DubPics. I always make sure to take photos of the bikes to do first started on and all the other stuff we're getting into in the shop. So if you guys want to check us out, there's gonna be a link in the description. We're also on TikTok, if you guys didn't know. Look at that. We're fancy kids. All right, Husqvarna, let's give this bike what it deserves. You know, guys, we're lucky enough here on the channel to get invited out to press launches and stuff. This is a bike that if I was invited to the press launch, I'd have been on the plane flying to the location, and I would be so excited. I'd be reading everything about this motorcycle. And then it would be the first day, and I would be doing the press intro, and they'd be telling us all about it. I'd still be getting excited. And then we'd go for a ride. And that first 15 minutes, I honestly think I would be like, what in the hell is this? Let's get this thing going. Let's do the steering lock test. And let's see how far she'll go. About a medium showing there. Nothing to be embarrassed about, but certainly nothing to write home about. Alright guys, I have some opinions. Let's finish this thing up. So, as you guys probably saw, I came into this video really hyped. Last week when we were walking through Mountain doing another first ride, I saw this bike on the floor and I got so excited. I was like, oh my gosh, I know I've ridden the 401 of that bike, but I feel like the 701 just has a different look. It has a different vibe. And I want something a little more powerful. So then I think I might have came into this with like these big hopes and dreams, and the bike just didn't stack up for me. I think it vibrates far too much to be really enjoyable. Like truly on the highway, it vibrated in a certain frequency that I wouldn't be able to ride on the highway for very long. I would literally have to pull off and let my hands rest. That's just my hands. My feet would be vibrating the whole time too. You know, like I said earlier, maybe I'm just riding the bike wrong, but it just does not impress me. I've ridden bikes with this engine before, and this engine is not bad. But I don't know if it's the way they tuned it or if they modified it at all. I just feel like this thing is massively underpowered, especially for a motorcycle where the top half, it's got you all leaned over and wanting to be, you know, feel aggressive. It's got a great suspension setup and it's adjustable. The bike hints to you that it wants to be ridden hard, but then you start riding it hard and you get the revs up too high and it starts shaking and making you feel unstable. It's strange. And then, you know, when you're in city streets like this, it's not bad. You know, you have plenty of RPM range to ride the bike smoothly. It's lightweight, it's maneuverable, it's fine. But for a bike that costs more than my Yamaha MT-10, this ride is unacceptable. My MT-10 is a cinematic joyride every time I ride it. and you can get an MT10 cheaper than you can get this 701. There is no planet, there is no multiverse that I could live in where I could suggest you get this bike over an MT10. I know that's not a comparison. You should not compare those two bikes because they have nothing to do with each other. When you're talking this price point, this is not acceptable. I'm sorry. A bike can look as cool as it wants, but if it rides bad, there's no point in it. That is my main takeaway from this video. A bike can be the coolest thing, the hottest looking bike on the planet, and if it rides like trash, then the looks don't matter. On that bombshell, I feel like I should probably end the video. But guys, before we do, I want to give a shout out to my guys over at Mountain Motorsports. 6 locations with a massive amount of motorcycles in each of them. If you guys are looking for your next bike, they are the place to go to. We'll have links for their stuff in the description down below. And if it wasn't for them, wouldn't be able to ride all these bikes. There's also a discount. Just a little first ride special discount you guys can get. Just check it out in the description down below. Guys, I appreciate you riding around with me, and I'll see you on the next one. Later. All right, Outro crew, thank you for getting to the end of the video. Make sure to hit the like and subscribe button if you're not already, since you made it to the end of the video. I'm assuming you liked it. Outro crew, I love you a little bit longer. Make sure to put OC in your comment and let me know, why does Husqvarna think that they can charge this much for a motorcycle that is this lackluster? Somebody explain that to me, because I'm upset that I love the way this bike looks so much that and it rides this, unfortunately, that I am now not really as excited. Hopefully I'll totally forget about this first ride and take a glance at one of these down the road and be like, dang, that bike though. Maybe if we're talking real hopes, I'm hoping that KTM they put their 890 engine out of their Duke and they put it in this thing. That's my true hope. You guys, I'll see you in the comments. Later.